There's two things to mention before we start. Firstly, there might be mild spoilers for The Outer Worlds, for those yet to play, and secondly, I fucking love this game. The Outer Worlds is a first-person space RPG from Obsidian Entertainment, and on initial inspection, most viewers will see the obvious Fallout influences. In fact, The Outer Worlds was even developed by a number of former Fallout developers, who were obviously given an opportunity to really lean into the incredible vision of this game. I wasn't someone who played Fallout 3 or Fallout New Vegas when they released, and instead, I was only introduced to the whole Fallout universe in 2015, when Fallout 4 was just hitting shelves. I had heard of the more fleshed out storytelling of these previous entries in the series, but going back to play them, without the much needed aid of nostalgia, was not an experience I could brave for very long. The Outer Worlds has taught me what I think was the kind of magic that old Fallout fans loved so much about the series, and more than ever before, highlights how far that series has fallen from its peak. The Outer Worlds cuts down on many features that would have been included in a Fallout game, but it makes it feel as if those additions were just inflating the series, as opposed to actually adding anything worthwhile. The Outer Worlds trims the fat and amplifies the fundamentals of a fun RPG, and what we have left is a beautifully crafted game that I cannot recommend any more highly for those who enjoy the RPG genre. When I started The Outer Worlds, I was greeted with a character creation screen that almost seemed out of place. Not only were the cosmetic and customization options actually pretty solid, but the skill-based customization really lets the player decide on their specialty before the game even starts. Quite naturally, I decided to dump every piece of skill allocation into personality, which equates to the dialogue-based skills receiving a sizable boost from the start of the game. I also purposefully crippled myself in intelligence, which would later open up the option for dumb replies in conversations. All I had to do next is finish off my sexy character, give them a fitting name, and be ready to set off on a humble crusade. As a side note, I never fucking regretted this name. We can start with introductions. I'm Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ, nice place you got here, Chief. Jesus Christ, are you always this drunk? The first person I met on my journey was a young man down on his luck, but even through his hardship, he insisted on giving me his corporate approved greeting.
You've tried the best now. Now try the rest. Spacer's choice. Oh, wow, that stings.
Players quickly learn that corporations own everything in the Outer Worlds, and one of the biggest overarching themes in this game is how life is perceived from people who are raised in a world that has so embraced these capitalist ideologies. Initially, I expected such a dominant theme like this to wear thin incredibly quickly, and that it would just end up being a one-dimensional take on the dangers of unchecked capitalist expansionism, but it ended up becoming much more balanced and thoughtful than I was expecting. I won't go into this much further, but the whole premise was executed wonderfully. Anyway, I keep talking to the young man, and eventually, by using my decked out speech skills, convinced him to hand me his gun. I then proceeded to shoot him in the fucking head, demonstrating perhaps my favorite feature in the game. In the Outer Worlds, you can kill anyone, and by God, did I fucking put that to good use.
Remember, no rush.
Maybe Adelaide was right.
I then walk down a trail until I meet two of the workmates of the guy I had just mercilessly murdered. Not only did I deny ever seeing their friend, but my speech skills convinced them to take out the marauders who were standing around my ship. After they failed horribly to kill the degenerates, I instead took matters into my own hands, dispatching them with my acquired pistol. I then claimed my ship, and by the time I walked back outside, another employee had come looking for the two who had just died by marauder attack. I then proceeded to tell him that they had accidentally shot themselves, which he believed without a fault. I then executed this fourth man for good measure. As a recap, I befriended a man and convinced him to give me his gun. I then proceeded to shoot him with his own weapon, deny ever meeting him to his friends, go on to convince both of them to kill themselves, tell the last guy that it was all an accident, before finally tying up every loose end. At this stage, at only the 10-minute mark, I was fucking sold. Perhaps it was because I had inherited such low expectations of characters from other games that I didn't expect to find any to be even close to compelling in the Outer Worlds, but my god, was I wrong. The game manages to so quickly give you an impression of a character and lets you know their personality and what they want in life. The people you talk to feel as if they were given proper care when they were written, and at no point did I feel as if they were just going to make me rescue another fucking settlement. The Outer Worlds expects you to pay attention, and often how you complete a task isn't always obvious. In this scenario, I was sent to a small town to give the leader a cease and desist order. Using my frankly ridiculous speech skills, I'm sure I could have come to some sort of arrangement, but because I didn't like the tone of the people I talked to, I decided to take another path to success.
I'd rather not resort to violence. This is a place of understanding and acceptance.
We felled it, mind.
This isn't to say that every character compelled me to murder them. In fact, some were so fucking likable that I would end up shifting my own moral compass to more closely align with what they wanted. One such companion was Parvati, a shy engineer who has lived in the same town her entire life. If there was ever a single example of how to create a good companion, she is a goddamn masterclass. Like a fine cologne, the Outer Worlds doesn't announce the details of Parvati when you first meet her, but instead, you're able to discover who she is as a person through your own experiences and how she interacts with her surroundings. Whenever I'd walk around town, she would comment on buildings I walked past or remind me of a memory she had at an area when she was younger. At one point, she even refused to enter a store because she had been previously banged by the owner. I ended up finding her house, and she would comment on every room I would enter and even get politely worked up when I would take things. Naturally, even when there are 6 possible companions in this game, I never went anywhere without Parvati again. And when making this video, I even made an entire folder called Parvati Being Adorable, which more than anything, just demonstrates how fucking phenomenal the writing in the Outer Worlds really is.
Captain. I can call you Captain now. Ha! I got a captain. Captain. Hey, Captain. I'm in space. I never thought I'd be able to say that.
There is certainly something to be said for the visual appeal of the Outer Worlds, and admittedly, people might have differing opinions. At times the game looks downright stunning, especially when the artists make the most out of the exceptional skyboxes and neon-lit streets. At other times the graphics aren't nearly as impressive, which seems to be down to more bland environments not embracing the strengths of the art style. With this being said, however, the Outer Worlds, especially when compared to its Fallout relatives, is optimized and polished much more thoroughly. I couldn't find a single significant bug in my entire playtime, and the game ran almost flawlessly from the very start.
Here's a nice piece of shit.
It's been long enough. Let's talk about the combat. Fighting in the Outer Worlds, much like the rest of the game, focuses on a really strong foundation. The gunplay at its core feels on the same level as Borderlands or Destiny, with the handling being tight and every gun feeling punchy. However, unlike the previously mentioned games, the combat isn't incredibly deep. There aren't any abilities for your character to shoot from their hands, or even grenades to throw as a secondary. The weapons themselves are pretty limited, but all the basic weapon varieties are covered. Admittedly, my character wasn't spec'd into combat, so I probably wasn't maximizing my confrontational choices, but fighting in the Outer Worlds was neither a chore or a delight. It did, however, become laughably easy at later stages on normal difficulty, so players might consider modifying this if it becomes too mundane. In fact, the only 2 occasions I died were from a bullshit landmine, and by falling through a fucking tree that apparently couldn't hold my body weight. Higher difficulties also force players to better use different types of damage on certain enemies, but I personally wasn't at all interested in this kind of added layer and would have rather had an alternative way to add depth to the combat. The highest difficulty will also force the player to eat and sleep, but as a person who isn't mentally unstable enough to enjoy Dark Souls, this also wasn't a feature I was keen to make use of. I just saved all the consumable items I could until I sold them all for $14 like a regular fucking player.
I so enjoy watching you sleep for hours on end, Captain. It's quite entertaining the way you drool and whimper.
One of the biggest criticisms for The Outer Worlds was that I always craved a deeper level of customization, which in my opinion is maybe the only thing Fallout does better. Armor and weapons can only hold a tiny number of modifications, which never felt like something I could dramatically modify, rather than simply make more powerful. And for a game that can show every tiny statistical detail of a weapon, I found this surprising. The perks and bonuses players get for leveling up skills also felt lackluster at times, and I wish the developers made the rewards more impactful to encourage a larger variation of builds. In all honesty, there's nothing wrong with the current system, but the upgrades often seem to just be quality of life improvements, as opposed to something shiny to play around with.
But I ain't got nothing on me. How's about a heaping helping of appreciation and respect?
Okay, here we go.
At this point, I think this is mostly nitpicking in an otherwise exceptional game. I had zero expectations for The Outer Worlds, and even actively tried not to get invested in the characters, but this endeavor only lasted around 10 minutes. One of the biggest revelations I discovered about myself was that I previously thought I hated side quests in games, but I was wrong. I just hate boring side quests that don't leave you feeling emotionally invested or adequately rewarded. The Outer Worlds reminded me how fucking good this genre can be and how much it's been warped by an intent to generate more money for a publisher. Assassin's Creed Odyssey couldn't properly reward its players because it needed to sell experience boosters, and it couldn't write compelling characters because for some fucking reason, Ubisoft doesn't seem to know how, or at least hasn't known for a long time. The Outer Worlds also knows that no one really gives two shits about a 50-kilometer map if it's not actually interesting to traverse. No amount of marketing is going to make me care about 500 boring side quests when every single person on the face of the earth would rather this be cut down if this meant they would be more interesting and fun. Obsidian Entertainment seems to understand this so well, and even if the player only spends half their time than they would have in a larger RPG, they're unlikely to enjoy that time nearly as much as in this corporately dominated world the developers have crafted. If every single sentence from the start of this video to now still hasn't left you longing for this game, then here is the fucking bombshell. I got this game for $1.
Here's a number. Psych! That's the wrong number!
Through the Xbox Game Pass, which is available on the Xbox and PC, Microsoft is offering players the first month for $1, which means for 30 days, you can play and complete The Outer Worlds for less than literally every single microtransaction to ever exist. If anything, this video should convince viewers to get the Game Pass more than The Outer Worlds, and honestly, I'd be asking Microsoft to sponsor this channel if it wasn't so fucking easy to sell Gears 5, Dishonored 2, Shadow of War, Sea of Thieves, and hundreds more for $1 fucking. But let's wrap this up. If you find yourself to be a fan of RPGs, top quality storytelling, or Fallout before fans had to be insulted with this monstrosity, then you will fucking love The Outer Worlds. You'll love its characters, its ever-present running joke of late-stage capitalism, and its commitment to its very specific vision. The Outer Worlds shakes off much of the baggage of the modern gaming landscape, while also carefully selecting the best pieces to adopt from legendary titles of days past. Game enthusiasts have every right to be jaded from unethical publishers, uninspired sequels, and a constant bombardment of microtransactions, which is why when a game this good comes along and asks only $1 for admission, you don't question the ironic corporate witchcraft that happened behind the scenes, and instead, take this incredible title and let it remind you how fantastic games could be if they had to be good in order to be profitable.
Oh yeah? Fuck your birthday.